Welcome to GovCom Unfiltered, where your journey through the labyrinth of federal contracting begins. I'm Alexa Choi, your guide and host on this epic adventure. Here, we dive deep into the heart of government contracting, shedding light on the heroic tales of those who navigate its complex terrain. Our mission? To bring you closer to the action, revealing the critical steps, triumphant victories, and occasional pitfalls that our intrepid adventurers face. Your journey into the world of government contracting starts now, and we could not be happier to have you with us. Let's embark on this adventure together. Thank you for joining GovCom Unfiltered. Today, our guest is Brian from Adobe, and I'm super excited to chat with him. Brian, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Alexa. I'm Brian Chidester. I'm head of global strategy and innovation for public sector at Adobe. I've spent over 20 years in the public sector space and even have a podcast where I get to kind of nerd out on some of these topics. So I'm just as excited to kind of be here to do that with you today on your platform.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, let's just dive right into it.
Yeah.
So what is the pivotal moment from early in your career that is not in your bio, but has shaped your journey and kind of brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really is founded in sports. People that do know me know I played college soccer, Division I college soccer, and I actually played professional soccer. And kind of what I took away from that is things don't happen by happenstance, right? You have to work for it. The things that I learned in that area are like teamwork, kind of perseverance, like leading through adversity. And what's interesting too is you don't think about that stuff at the time. It's just something that when you look back on, you're like, oh, I see where maybe my confidence in that situation came from because I experienced that when I was in my teenage years, right? And was able to overcome it and figure it out. So I think sports played a massive part of kind of my foundation. And it wasn't just soccer. I mean, I played football, played basketball, played soccer, tried to do all the sports in high school, but soccer was the one that I was big in. But I just think you learn so much. It's one of the reasons why I like my kids being active in sports and other activities, because you do take so much out of it. Well, and I'll say this, you get as much out of it as you put in. And I think that's the biggest thing.
I think that's true for most things. But I was going to ask you, when the D1 sports, right, there's like a discipline and competition, like competitiveness. Do you feel like those two huge lessons played a role in your success in PubSec?
I can't see how it couldn't. I think one of the things, you use the word discipline, and I think that's right. I'm not a big believer in motivation. I think motivation does not work, but you need discipline. You think about, I got big into running when I finished playing soccer and would run marathons, anything from 5K to a marathon. And I love it. And the thing that I learned from running is you can get motivated to go for a run, but when you're at mile 10, 15, 20, that motivation is not there anymore, right? So it's the discipline. One of the best pieces of advice that I've sort of taken from that into my professional career, somebody told me you have to run the mile that you're in, right? And if you start looking ahead, it can become a little bit demoralizing. And you obviously have to think about those things, but you have to finish the mile, run the mile that you're in. And I think that's a good life lesson, right? You can't get past some of the challenges that you're in right now. You have to get through those intentionally before you get on to the next thing.
Right. I can tell you honestly, I don't think I know a lot about mile 10 or mile 15, but mile 3 I know a lot about.
The mile 20 and 21 for people that are runners, mile in 2021 will understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's the one. Those are the ones. Yeah.
No, I love that advice though, to run the mile that you're in. I think right now in today's sort of environment, even when we talk, and I notice myself doing it a lot, when you try to get a thought out, you're already thinking about the next thought. So you interrupt yourself in the thought you're in to talk about the next thing. And so running the mile that you're in, being in the moment that you're in, really solving the challenges that you have today while thinking about what you have tomorrow, where you want to be, and working backwards is kind of a superpower.
It is. And I will tell you, the person that's helped me the most on that is my wife, in terms of trying to be present. I think about being a dad and I have 3 kids, and being present in the moment's so challenging. And I'm always thinking about, okay, well, they're doing this now, but we need to get them ready for school, or we have this tonight, or I have this meeting to go to, or especially the weekend, thinking about, okay, what does my Monday look like? My wife has been so good about keeping me present in a lot of those moments and helping me kind of remember to be present in those moments. And it's been amazing to make sure that I'm not missing out on some of those things. So I think being present, but being intentional is so important.
All right. So find a good wife. Check. Okay. Got it on my to-do list.
Yeah.
So what is like a really unconventional strategy that you've used to win contracts or advance, government services? And you have a really cool title, which includes innovation and PubSec and like all these things. Like, what is something unconventional that you think a lot of folks might not want to do or be nervous to do that you employ and that you have found success?
I don't know if it's unconventional or not. I guess everybody can kind of be the judge on this. I think very strategically around path to acquisition. Even when we're looking at the solutions themselves, before we're even meeting with customers, I want to understand what is the fastest path to acquisition. And what I mean by that is, I remember there was a situation when I was at a different company, we were looking at a solution that could help in the middle of COVID. And so I want to say this was like summer, fall 2020. And we knew that it had to get procured quickly. And to be able to draw value from it, they would need to be able to implement it fast. So one of the first things I did was take a look at what IDIQs were out there with some of the SIs that we were already doing business with, right? So we identified an IDIQ with CDC, with the organization we needed to actually engage through one of the SI vendors that we worked on. So we went straight to the SI and said, look, we have this solution. We want to partner with you and run it through this filter or through this channel to be able to find a path to procurement quickly. And they had a relationship with the customer. So I think thinking strategically about how you're going to get to path to power, path to acquisition, even from the very beginning. Don't wait until things are in market and say, okay, we have people interested. Now what? That could be a huge driver. So again, I don't know if it's unconventional per se, but I think it's definitely valuable to think outside the box beyond just the messaging and the veneer that you're putting on it, but what's the actual path to acquisition?
Right. No, I do think it's unconventional. And I'll tell you why. I think a lot of folks don't really think about the money piece until they're in a green team, right? Until you're trying to figure out your pricing, your path to win. Do I price to play? Do I price like whatever their pricing approach is? I think at that point, then you're more on like the receiving end of the government changing the acquisition strategy because of folks like you that have been shaping the acquisition strategy. But to be one of those shapers, rather than the people on the receiving end of trying to like, oh no, they put it out HubSpot. They put it says,
Well, and it helps you identify who it is you should be engaging, right?
Right.
I knew by doing that, it wasn't the customer we needed to go engage. I needed to go engage this SI, right? And show them value realization across how they can build us into a solution that they're already deploying through that IDIQ. So that became the different persona we needed to engage. So if we didn't start that way, we might have been putting messaging out to the wrong individuals and getting nothing back. To me, you have to start in a lot of different areas, not just the one that you always think about.
Right. And that's like knowing who your customer is. Because at that point, your customer is the SI, which by the way, I always try to explain my acronym. So SI, systems integrator. So think SAIC, Leidos, Booz Allen, those kind of companies. That's a really good point. And if you're selling to the wrong person, how do you expect to close a deal or even provide the value or solve for the mission or whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's important you try to reverse engineer it as best you can.
Reverse engineer it. Absolutely. That's the right way of looking at it. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Looking back at your journey, who was the one person who opened an unexpected door for you? And how has that experience influenced how you help others now?
Oh man, that's a great question. And I love the opportunity to answer this question because looking back, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't say there's so many people that have helped me across my career, as I'm sure there are for you and others. But I can definitely put my finger on one individual that made a big difference in where I pivoted my career. My background was almost 100% marketing before I got to this company called Appian, which is a low-code platform company. And the individual that essentially had the job that I have now at Adobe, which is kind of doing industry strategy and all of that, sort of opened my eyes to kind of what you can do to impact and influence the market, right? And he was able to, his name is Jason Adolph, and I've been fortunate enough to tell him this too, and he didn't even know it at the time that he was making such a big difference in my career. And sort of mentoring me from afar. But I would watch him and kind of see the things that he was doing and learn from the techniques and strategies he was deploying and all of that. And just the way he was thinking about the market was fascinating to me.
Right.
So I made a very conscious decision that I wanted to be able to impact the market beyond just kind of what I was doing in the marketing role. And that has absolutely changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, from that role, I moved to head of worldwide industry strategy for public sector at OpenText, which opened up not only strategy, but global public sector. And just haven't looked back. It's the best job in the world. And I'm sorry for those out there that think they have the best job in the world. You don't. Just kidding. But no, I love working in this market. I love these types of roles. And I can absolutely go back and say he had a big part in that pivot for me.
One of the reasons why I was laughing when you were talking about this is because I've interviewed Jason Adolph on GovCom Unfiltered.
Okay.
And he's also one of my favorite leaders in the industry, as well as Appian being one of the more scrappy low code, no codes out there. And their go to market is so out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that their whole company is put together, I'm a huge fan of Matt Calkins.
Yeah.
The fact that he builds strategy board games in his free time,
Mm-hmm.
like what a cool dude.
Yeah, he has like a whole bookshelf in his house, just like floor to ceiling full of board games. He loves board games.
It's incredible. And so when you apply the board game strategy thinking to, business, PubSec, like all of that, it's really fascinating. So I'm a big fan of Jason, big fan of that answer. Thanks for giving us that answer. And also one thing I wanted to say before we moved on was I love to hear your passion for this industry, because I'm also like a little bit like that, like a little bit of a GovCon nerd, where people are like, oh, I can't wait to retire, or I want to, this is just a job for me. But I feel so entrenched like you, where this is something that is like a calling for me, not just a job that I do.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, and I've tried to instill this in my kids too, is you have to really find purpose in what you do.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to, but then you're just doing a job. And I find a lot of purpose in the roles that I have working in this industry. And I love the people that I work with. I love the work that we get to do on a daily basis. And that purpose to me keeps me so invested, both professionally, and personally, into the work that I'm doing, and just makes me absolutely love it. So I'm not the guy that on Sunday, I'm like, oh, I have to work on Monday. I get excited. And I think hopefully those listening have found roles that kind of excite them the same way.
Yeah, I hope so. And I also think that the whole concept of a work-life balance doesn't exist, and it shouldn't exist, because if you spend 10 hours or 8 hours a day, more than you spend with your family doing your career, your job, whatever it is, then why wouldn't you want that to be something that gives you purpose, that fills you with purpose, that fills you with that excitement on a Sunday night where you're like, actually for me, I build SaaS tools, so I don't even, like the weekend doesn't matter to me. I'm still working. So
competitive spirit. Like I told you about, one of the reasons I got into running after I finished playing soccer was because I needed to find some other way to compete, because I'm fiercely competitive. And in fact, in a lot of the enablements that I do, one of the first things I do, and one of the last things I do, is remind the people in the room or the people on the call that remember what we're here for. It's to win. We're not here just to go to market. We're here to win. And build your strategy and build your purpose around winning. And because of that competitiveness, like that's another thing that I love about this market, is it's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. And being able to flex that competitive muscle too is another reason why I love being in this space.
Yeah, I like that. It just gave me goosebumps. I'm like, ooh, we're here to win. And no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the winner is the one who gets to deliver the mission, whatever that is. And those missions are things that we run into on a daily basis. Like these are the citizen services that you find when you pick up the phone and call the VA, or when you go to, the Smithsonian with your kids to walk them around the museums. Like these are the missions we're solving for. And how cool that you get to work for Adobe, which is such a forward-leaning, like tech firm. So I feel like you've really found a great home there.
Yeah, Adobe's great. I think I knew the level of innovation that they had before I got there. At least I thought I did. And then I got inside the door, and I remember I was just this past December, I was at our sales kickoff out in Vegas, and one of the presentations was like one of our chief innovation officers talking about all the different AI technology and kind of rollouts that we were going to have that weren't even public yet. And my jaw just hit the ground. I mean, some of my coworkers, I was like just texting them. Again, I told you I nerd out on this stuff. Like I was texting them, be like, we could do this and we could do that. We could do that. But it's insane. And again, talk about forward thinking, kind of not waiting for the market to come to you, but creating the market and being able to work for a company like Adobe that has created the market over and over again for various different product sets. It's very cool. But with that like you talked about, mission is a big responsibility, right? We know we have the capability to drive transformation, especially with the new way that government is looking to modernize. And with that is a responsibility to make sure that we're helping them be as successful as possible. So that's the challenge that I wake up for every day.
Wow, I love it. So I love this chat about competition. I'm always super thrilled by it because I think it provides a lot of fire, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So if you could go back and give yourself advice when you were just starting out, what would you tell yourself about balancing competition and collaboration? Because in this space, those two are closely coupled.
Yeah, I think this is a big question. It's something I struggled with and I still struggle with because I am so competitive. But the thing that I always remind myself is the person that you're competing with today could be the person you're collaborating with tomorrow. And we had the whole conversation around system integrators at the beginning, right? I'm going to use the full terminology and not acronyms to acronym people out. But we had that whole conversation around that. I mean, those same systems integrators are going to competitors of ours and working with them on different solutions too. And it just so happens that on this project, we're going to be working with you. So I think where I was probably far more draconian in how I approached competition, everything was even sum. Like I'm going to win and you have to lose and I'm going to win. Right. And I think what I found is that I can still keep that level of competitive spirit going, but somebody else doesn't have to lose for me to win. Right. We can create scenarios where everybody wins. Everybody's getting an opportunity to be part of a program that can drive change. And you look at just think about a simple transaction you might have with the government, right? To me, best case scenario is I win a contract. And by me winning a contract, the government gets to procure the technology that I know is going to drive change for them. And they're going to win too, right? They're going to get better.
Right.
We're going to get better. And let's move forward. I think that to me is where it needs to be. So I think what I've learned is just it doesn't have to be even sum. Everybody doesn't have to lose for me to win. Everybody can win. Now, winning might look a little different than what you'd expect on the outset, right? But it doesn't change the fact that it's a win.
Right.
And then the other thing is in that same vein, again, I mentioned I tended to be very draconian in how competitive I was. I think you can still be very competitive and still be very kind, respectful, and cordial, right? And I learned that later in my career. Not to say I was mean, but I definitely wasn't nice. And just being totally honest. But now I think it's one of those things where even though I hate to lose, like you can lose and you can look and you can respect the fact that, you know what? Yeah, you did. Man, that was a great marketing campaign, right? I wish I had thought of it. And you know what? That was awesome. And I'm going to learn from it. And you got me this time. And then we'll go again next time. I think enjoying the competition is, I think, what you really have to fall in love with. And then respecting the people that you're competing against is really what can drive it. And this is something I've also struggled with and it's not a good thing. I will say this. I think if you're listening and you struggle with this too, I think being intentional about it is important. Very much have struggled and still continue to struggle on celebrating the wins, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The wins to me are more relief and move on to the next thing. And I think being able to celebrate the wins and being able to respect the wins of your competitors and learn from those losses that you're taking, I think it's all about that process. And if you can kind of fall in love with that process, then you're ahead of the game, right? It took me a while to do that. And I think once I did, it sort of changed my approach to a lot of things. Now I love, and it's one of the things I love about this industry is it feels like so many people in this industry are like that. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to help you. Everybody wants to help you get better. I mean, it's one of the reasons why you and I are talking right now. So I think I love the people in this industry, not just at my company, not just at like friendly companies, but everybody in this industry, because we're all in it for the service of government. And I think that brings the best in competition, but it brings the best out in people.
Right. Yeah, I really love what you're saying. I remember chasing a very large NASA deal and I lost it to a company that just ran a great capture. And I bought the guy a really nice bottle of wine. And I think he thought I was hitting on him. I was not hitting on him, but I just
Must have been
wanted
a
to,
really nice bottle of wine. Yeah.
it really was. It was like $100 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he called me and he was like, yeah, I have a wife. I'm like, dude, I'm just here to tell you, like, that was awesome. And I'm so excited for you. I learned a lot and I want to wish you the best. But the next time around, I'm going to have this in my pipeline and I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And so like, I wanted to celebrate him, but also, let him know that it was a fair competition, kind of like at the end of a really good game, right? They shake hands.
Yeah.
They're like, that was a great game. And it kind of goes back to your sports analogy, like having that sportsmanship in this industry is important. And I do feel like I'm right there with you. I think we've got an amazing industry with people that really care and they're fired up and passionate about making real change, which is, I think, one of the reasons why in the current situation that we're in makes it harder for folks that are really tied into, I would say, GovCom, right? Like government and the whole community, the industry on the government side and the contractor side as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you're also seeing too is the industry galvanizing, coming together in challenging situations too. So I think that's the type of industry that I know I want to be in. And it's also the type of industry I want to contribute to. And I'm grateful that it's the one we get to work in every day.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Looking ahead at the next few years, what emerging opportunities do you see that others might be overlooking, and how can people position themselves to take advantage of what's coming next?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right? What's coming? Yeah. And I think the honest answer is, and some of the best advice I've gotten throughout this entire process is from our government relations team at Adobe. And they are, I will say this, I've worked with a lot of really good GR people. They are some of the best, if not the best. It's been incredible to see them work. But I remember the best piece of advice was anybody who says they know exactly what's going to happen, do not take any advice from them, because no one knows it. Like they do not know. So I think in that spirit, I think the best thing to do is answer the second question: is how can people position themselves to take advantage of opportunities? And I think that, to me, goes back to the way I think, which is you have to be decisive, right? You have to. One of the phrases I love that my buddy Jason Redman always says is "movement is life," right? You have to. If you want to stay alive, you have to move. So the worst thing you can do in this scenario is nothing. So I think continue to make sure you're educating yourself on a daily basis. You're putting your positioning and your messaging out there so people can see what your value is, and then don't over rotate. I think stick to situations where they're the fundamentals. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Be very good at what you're very good at, and make sure you're able to show value aligned to what government is prioritizing. That's how you get longevity in this business. It's by positioning your strengths, right? But don't try to be everything to everybody, because no company is.
Right. I always let folks know that is a pretty much an indicator of an immature business to have a laundry list of things you're good at, right? Pick 3, double down, riches are in the niches, and get good at those things. And then, but that's just like a pretty common small business foible.
Yeah. And another thing too, look for ways to leverage your ecosystem too, like your partner ecosystem, through not just what we talked about before around acquisition acceleration, but also around technology extension. I know it's one of the things that we're constantly exploring at Adobe, and I've done it throughout my entire career, is how can I extend the value of what Adobe is bringing to a customer through something a partner might be deploying as well, so we can show interoperability and maybe cost realization and savings for the customer. So being able to being able to move yourself into a different area, but still sticking to what you're strong at, to me, is a great opportunity for you to extend your brand too. So I think partner extension, especially technology partner extension, is important.
And I think the government loves that because nothing makes them happier than seeing companies working together to
Yeah.
move their mission forward.
Or finding ways to extend through a partner that they've already invested in, right?
Right.
One of the things that, I mean, yes, they're looking to reduce cost, but
Right.
they're also looking to maximize their pre-existing investments. So if you can show partnership and integration into things they've already invested in, time and money, I think that's another way you're helping the customer too. And
Right.
again, at the end of the day, what we're trying to get into is a win-win, like we talked about.
Right. 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 Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening on today's episode of GovCom Unfiltered. Catch us on the next episode. But for today, thank you, Brian. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.